Okay, welcome everybody to the Dirt Trail Running Podcast, Coffee with Coaches. Today we have a special guest. You're here with Coach Loretta and Coach Reese, and then our special guest is our OMR Trail Run Coaching athlete, who I have the privilege of coaching, Sarah Krebs. So welcome to the show, Sarah.
Hello. Thanks for having me, guys. I really appreciate it.
For sure. We're super excited. This has been something I've wanted to share for months, but I've had to keep it, mum's the word. And so now we get to, really share about your journey that's going to be coming up. So I'm going to let Reese take it from here, and we're going to just kind of go through this podcast and talk a little bit about fastest known times. And then Sarah's going to share her story and what her why is for her journey.
Awesome. Thank you, Loretta. Hey guys, it's Coach Reese here. I think fastest known times, the idea and the ethos behind it is really, really interesting. It doesn't have anything to do with race affiliation or really an organized event. It's just kind of one person's willingness to go off and set along a trail or defined route and say, hey, how fast can we do this? So the premise behind fastest known times is just to say that, hey, we don't know exactly the entire history of the trail and who's covered it, but our fastest known data point is who's run it the fastest. And all of that is kind of arbitered and collected by fastestknowntimes.com. So if anybody wants to look up more information, they can go to that website. They can check out other FKTs in their area. FKTs can be as short as a couple miles. They could be as long as the Ice Age Trail, over 1,000. There's FKTs on the Appalachian Trail, the PCT, all of that. So there's a bunch of cool ones in the area. So you can get stoked up on what people have been running, around your area and in what time. So there's a couple different categories of fastest known times. And that's self-supported, unsupported, and self-supported. Yep. And then fully supported. There we go. Yep. So self-supported FKTs are going to be FKTs where you do not have any outside assistance whatsoever. So like you don't have any food drops, you don't have any crew handing you water, you don't accept anything from strangers, you don't even pick up a candy bar off the side of the trail that you might find fully packaged and call it yourself. So you carry everything on you at once. You don't have any outside resource. I do believe that you can filter your own water. That's applicable as long as the resources are available for everybody and they're not particular to you. It's fair game. So that means too that you can stop on the side, actually, I think this is kind of debated if you wanted to get go off trail for a little bit, get a McDonald's burger, get back on trail and then head out. But we'll let the internet commentators debate that one. So that's self-supported. That's unsupported. Self-supported is going to be you can set caches for yourself as long as you don't have any outside support from anybody else. You're totally fair game. You can set caches, carry all your own food, filter your own water. You can stop in at restaurants and get food as long as you complete the entirety of the trail. You can tack on whatever mileage you need to get support that you need. Some people doing really long events too, they will even mail themselves packages and then pick them up at different post offices. That's an opportunity. And then the fully supported is, hey, everything's fair game. You're going to go from point A to point B, cover the entire trail as quickly as you can. If you need to get off trail, you kind of stake out where you're at and make sure you start back at that stake. You can have a van following you. You can have a significant other or a crew chief following you and supplying you with aid and whatnot. So really anything is fair game as long as you cover the entire distance of the trail in the shortest amount of time. So those are kind of the three main ways that you can go about these FKTs. And again, if that's a little confusing for anybody or if I rifled through them pretty quick, you can go onto the website and they detail it out pretty well. I do have to say over the past couple of years, they have done a good job at really titrating down what the specifications are for each class. But besides the point, the ethos goes, this is somebody's willingness and desire to cover an area under their own power, do it in the quickest amount of time, have as much fun as they want to, and really design when they start and what the entire journey looks like. So it's definitely more of an adventure run than a race. It's a personal endeavor, kind of a soul searching type of effort, if you will. So that's the nature of the FKTs, and that's the nature of what we're going to be talking about today. So I'd like to turn it over to Sarah now. Sarah, can you tell us a little bit of the backstory? What motivates you to go out there and take a good portion of your life and dedicate yourself to being on the trail and covering it as quickly as possible?
Um, well, it actually, when Corey Waltering did it in 2020, I was super inspired by it. I've always loved the trail. I actually grew up on the trail. My parents live on a connecting route, and I never appreciated it until I came home, and got a little older and started running some trails and stuff. And when Corey did it, I was able to join him for just a couple short miles, and it was just so inspiring. And I actually, at the time, I said to my friend Corey, that would be really cool to do sometime, and to do the whole trail first, but also like to go for the FKT would be awesome, and so my friend Corey Wilcox, he said to me, and his wife Rachel too, both were like, Sarah, you could totally do that. So I didn't really, like kind of had it in the back of my mind, but didn't, think too much of it because I wasn't at any place at that point that I could have done anything like that. But then in April 22, Corey was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, and sorry, it hit us really, really hard. And about a month later, I was thinking about it, and I said to Ben, my husband, I said, I kind of want to do this for that. And he's like, let's do it. So I had my why, and I was able to tell Corey before he passed in August. I don't know that he comprehended it, but I know Rachel has told me, his wife has told me, like he knew I could do it if I wanted to. And that it's not, the FKT is definitely not my main goal. My main goal is to raise money for pancreatic cancer, because it's just such a horrible, horrible diagnosis. And the more the word gets out, the more I hear back from people. I lost so-and-so in 2000, whatever, I keep hearing. So I'm doing it for them too. And for future people who may have this diagnosis, to help them find it earlier and to, have the cure for it eventually would be amazing. So Ben and I kind of started planning in June last year, and then Corey passed in August, 10 days actually. 10 days before my first 100-miler. And it got me through just thinking about him and knowing that he was in the woods with me, and like something would happen and I'd yell at him like it was his fault. And so after I recovered from that, we kind of were thinking about it a little more, like if I could get through Midwest states the way I did. I finished, Reese, I don't know if you know, but I finished in rain boots. My feet were just trashed, and that was the only way I could get through. I finished in my friend's husband's rain boots, so they were like 3 sizes too big, and just knew if I could get through that, I could push through a lot. And so we continued planning, and then I reached out to Loretta and kind of told her my story, and she was like, yeah, let's do this. And it's been phenomenal, like working with her. And I've kind of always had some knee issues, so I found a PT friend from years ago who's been helping me as well, Kyle. He's been great and has turned my knee around from swell up after every single long run to little to no swelling now. So it's been quite the journey. And now that it's gone public, I guess, it's the amount of support I've gotten so far from everybody has just been amazing. So yeah.
I
Thanks
think
for
that's
sharing
very
that,
powerful.
Sarah. Yeah, super, super emotional story. And that definitely is going to help get you through your journey. I've been coaching Sarah for several months now, and I know she has a lot of grit. So I have no doubt that she's going to finish this journey. I'm super, super excited for it to start. So, Sarah, what are some things that you're thinking of as you're going into it? Anything that like is your biggest concern or worry?
I think the whole just how trashed my feet got at Midwest states, that comes to mind a lot. But we're trying to, troubleshoot that. And I think the fact that I won't be out there for 100 miles back and forth through the same water will be beneficial. So that's, one thing, but also just, connecting people with on the trail too. I've reached out to each chapter about just different things, and I've heard back from most of them, like they've been amazing and supportive as well. Um, and just, yeah, have fun with my family. Like I told my kids, this is, as far as I know, I don't know that there's been a family that's crewed like this. And they're going to be there most, if not all of it. So I think that'll be really cool. Just a whole family adventure.
Yeah. Do you want to share a
So
little bit about how the age of your kids, names of kids that's going to be helping
yeah,
and your husband?
yeah. So Abel is 12. He'll be done with sixth grade just before we get started. And then Johanna is 10. She'll finish fourth grade just before we get started. So my son is super excited to get out there. He wants to bike with me on the portions he can, because most of the trail there's no bikes, but there's some bike trails that rail the trail that he'll be able to join me on. And my husband loves biking too, so they'll all be biking, and Johanna will probably run with me a little bit. I hope she's more my runner, but we'll see. So
That's exciting.
yeah,
A great family event, big family vacation.
yeah, longest we've ever taken, that's for sure.
Right. Nice. So we've talked a little bit about the trail, but we really haven't said what trail it is. Do you want to explain the trail that you're going to be conquering and maybe the approach that you're going to take, where you're going to start?
Yeah, so it's the Ice Age Trail. It runs about 1,150 miles through Wisconsin. It starts at St. Croix Falls on the western side of the state and runs across to the middle of the state and then heads south and then goes back up to Sturgeon Bay. So it's actually there's a map of it right behind me.
Happens to be behind her,
Yeah,
made
yeah,
with a very lovely frame that her husband
yeah. My husband
constructed.
made that. Yeah. So yeah, the plan is to start out slow. I had talked with Corey Woltering a bit about, tips that he had after he did it and whatnot. And he said definitely start out slower on that first 350-ish miles before you make the turn. And that's what I'm planning to do, and just take it a day at a time and try not to get too far ahead of myself or too beat up about things. If I have a bad day, there's still a lot of time to make up lost time or whatever. Um and if I don't get that FKT, that's okay. Like the main goal is raising money. And if I if I don't get the goal, then just out there to raise more money each day that I'm there. So
Absolutely.
Yeah, I definitely don't want this, this endeavor to overshadow like the more impactful meaning, But for our listeners and everyone, like just the pure desire to go out there for over 3 weeks, to give it your all, to be out there day after day, and of course, like I mean, nothing ever goes right in any ultra, even one
right,
that's only 100 miles, right?
right.
So there's got to be that real impactful why, like you said, to keep going, keep lacing up your shoes, keep getting to the van, sleeping, recovering, getting up and going again. Like there's going to be a lot of
Mhm.
highs, there's going to be a lot of lows. Nothing's ever going to go to plan, and I don't want any of what we're about to ask to overshadow that. So we'll definitely have links to your cause and in all of the channels that you guys are going to go through too, just so that way our listeners have an opportunity to visit any outlets that you guys have to share what you're doing and share the cause as well. So, I guess, the northern and western side of the Ice Age Trail is probably the most rugged, I would say. Is that what you've heard from other people?
That is what I heard. But I did also actually, I had the privilege of talking to Colin Brighton. I'm sorry, Colin, if I'm saying your name wrong. He did it, I believe it was either self-supported or unsupported. I'm not sure. He did it he did it in September. And he said that western part is actually the western and northern part. He's like, it's better than he had anticipated. So I think it's thanks to Michelle and Ornery Mule. It got a lot more traffic up there and cleaned up maybe a little bit. So I don't know. We'll see. He said he never felt like he was going to get lost or anything like that. Very well marked. And he said that of the whole trail though. So I think the volunteers do an amazing job of keeping it that way and making it for everybody, and keeping everyone safe out there. So
absolutely. That the Ice Age Trail organization, they have a website, and they do an amazing job gathering volunteers. There's hundreds of people who go out on their own free time with chainsaws and pickaxes and whatnot and just clear the trail, which is fantastic. And it's blazed out incredibly. There's really no hard issue following the trail itself. I guess, as far as logistics go, that seems to me, and I haven't covered that section of the Ice Age Trail, so I'm genuinely asking. That seems to me to be the most remote portion too. So have you guys talked about where you're going to go for crew access? Do you have points of stoppage? And have you done any recon up there?
So I did get some information from a couple of the chapter coordinators on different things and whatnot, places to stay, stuff like that. But we've also just used the resources off the Alliance website. They have a spreadsheet they make available to everyone. So actually my friend Brian has been working on that and figuring out how to make it super simple for us when we don't have Wi-Fi or we don't have cell access or anything like that to be able to find each spot. And when I say we, I mean Ben, because I'm just going to follow the blazes. So that's on him. But they also have the Far Out app, which is pretty up to date. They said they also have an interactive map on their site that's the most accurate. So yeah, did I answer your question? I'm sorry. I think.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Yep, absolutely. That one's starting with that one and kind of going to the most remote aspect of the course seems like a pretty good logistical decision, just so you can kind of get it out of the way. Because I know as you get down towards Madison and Whitewater and LaGrange and then up through Dousman and whatnot, you go through the southern kettles, the northern kettles. That's when you hit a lot of those really frequent trail towns. So that's when you're never necessarily going more than 20 to 30 miles without actually hitting some sort of crew access point, and gas stations that you can load up on food and whatnot. I think those are huge. Huge. Shout out to Quick Trip because they have a selection. I know I've listened to a couple of Corey's podcasts just about what
he lived on Quick Trip.
That's great. Is Quick Trip like the Buc-ee's of
Wisconsin? It is. Yes.
Yeah. Great. So, this is for listeners, it's hard to comprehend that you're going to run almost 1,200 miles, right? So how are you going to break that down on a daily basis?
The plan is to do 50 to 60 a day, but that's obviously fluid. If stuff comes up and storms blow through, okay, let's cut it off a little quick today or take a break right now, or my knee is flaring up or whatever, let's, but make it up on road time or whatever. So kind of just, you know, it's like any other ultra. You take it one step at a time, 1 mile at a time. It's going to be 1 mile, 1 day at a time. So
Right. A great mindset to go in. I mean, it's adaptability is key in all of these big events. And, this is a monster. So you definitely need to be able to be flexible, adaptable, because you're going to have to roll with whatever it brings you that day.
Right. Yeah.
So when are you starting your journey?
June 3rd.
And what is the current record time for the self-supported male and female? Do you have those?
I don't have exactly, but
I'm sorry, supported.
maybe Reese does. I know Corey's was 21 days and 13 hours, maybe 7 minutes. And then Annie is 21 days, 18 hours and 35. Okay. Is that right?
Ooh, you're actually really close. Okay, so I'm looking at it right now. Corey Waltering, 21 days, 13 hours, 35 minutes.
I missed 7 minutes.
21 days, 18 hours, and 7 minutes.
Okay.
So those are for the supported times.
Yeah.
So you're looking at like 3 weeks of time. So, how does somebody do that works? How's that going to work for you and your husband?
Both his boss and company and my boss and company have been amazing from the first day we both told them about it. My team is pretty small. We've got 2 offices, but only 12 people altogether. In my office, there's only 4 of us, and my boss's immediate response was, "How can we help?" Excellent. And same with Ben. So it's been amazing how supportive, and they're like, my team is out there trying to get grants for marketing for stuff for us right now. Like it's been overwhelming, the support that they've had for this. So
it's nice to work with a company that believes in mental health and self-care. So that's lucky that you both have that opportunity.
Yeah.
So this Ice Age trail, you're going to start in the northwest section. You're going to go, and it makes a big oxbow down. You're going to go through a bunch of different counties. You kind of travel a little east until you hit like mid-Wisconsin, and then you drop south and you get right over by Madison, and you hit this, the bisection is what they call it, of the trail. It's kind of this area that on its own can make a loop in and of itself, but there's one side that can add significantly more mileage, and I think the other side is a little bit more technical and less well marked. So when you hit that bisection, before you get back onto what is considered the general trail, what is your strategy through that area? What side of the loop do you take?
We are gonna take the east. That's generally what everyone has done, I believe. But we also have hunting land over there. So we have a camper over there. So that'll save us on some lodging by staying in our camper and whatnot. So it made it pretty simple to decide on which side to take. So.
Oh, that's fantastic. And yeah, I think the general trend is for people to take that eastern side because it does take off a good amount of miles.
I don't think it's that different. It's only like a couple miles, but it's road versus trail, I think.
Okay.
But yeah.
All right. So I've heard that there's bears in those woods. What are you thinking about the bears?
I'm not too worried about them. They're more afraid of us than we are of them. And unless it's a mama with its cubs, I'll just backtrack and wait for them to go on their way. I'm more worried about skunks, actually. I don't know if you guys have ever experienced a skunk on a trail, but I did in like Manitowoc area last year on the trail, and I was like, okay, what do I do here? Like, how do you manage that one?
That is bad. I've been through just as one has sprayed and thought, oh my gosh, I'm glad I wasn't sooner. That could have been really bad.
Right. I will be sleeping outside, that's for sure.
That's great. So what is your plans for like sleeping? Do you have a plan for that?
Yeah, so we're just trying to keep the costs as low as possible, but yet comfortable. So we haven't yet, but we'll book the first couple nights before we get going, and then just do it each night, depending on where we finish and what's nearby. And then when we're in the Montello area, we'll be at our camper for 1 or 2 nights. And then once we get over to the like probably maybe even Delafield, but a little further north, like because we live just off of the West Bend section. So we'll stay at our house. And then once we get north of there, we have a timeshare up in Michigan, which the trail goes right through there. So we'll stay there for the last part of it. So it'll add a little bit of time for drive, but hopefully not too bad. We just want to keep it so that any downtime is spent moving forward versus driving to and from hotels and whatnot. So yeah.
Yeah, that's very smart too, because that drive time and the logistics behind just not running can
Mm-hmm.
add a significant amount of stress. You know,
Yeah.
it's time that you can't be sleeping. That's time where it's hard to be foam rolling and whatnot.
Yeah.
So that's a good
I'm
idea to keep it low.
I'm fortunate enough I took some good advice and I got some Normatec legs. So those I'll be able to use in the truck and whatnot. So that'll be good, like helping me like start recovery almost immediately. So other thoughts we've had are I am a active recovery person. So if I feel like I'm done for the day, but a little lactic-y, I may go out, like, sit, eat something for a while, and then go back on the trail for like another mile or two, depending on, where we're at or whatnot, just to kind of keep moving. Like if I need active recovery, just keep moving forward versus, okay, I'll go walk around a hotel for a bit or whatever. So,
Yeah. So all energy expended, whether it's, running
yep,
or hiking or recovery or active recovery, is going to be for forward motion. That's
yep,
that's a good
yep.
that's a good style.
So what have you done in your training that you think is going to be most beneficial when you actually start the trek on the trail?
Um, I think I've liked the agility stuff you've given me. I think that's been something that I wasn't great at doing before, which has really helped. And just the longer training days back to back. I always did longer days, but never back to back like this has been. And I think that mentally and physically has been huge because I've definitely hit some lows while out there, and it's like, okay, how do I turn this over, because it's going to happen. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of when. And just also practicing eating different things, and because it's not a 50K, like it's not just, I can just take in my perpetuum or my heat. Like I need to be eating all the stuff, and my stomach needs to be okay with most things. We found out Chinese is not a good thing, so that's out. But otherwise, I've been pretty good with everything I've tried. So that's
That's
good.
good. Yeah, that's really good. You've been smart and, just practicing, because now's the time to, if it's going to fail, you'd rather have it be a problem and know ahead of time than
Yep.
when you're
Yep.
actually doing the journey. So, and I know, Reese, you were part of those agility drills, and so was I and my little dog. So,
Good.
and then you've also spent some time, carrying your heavier pack on some and doing some power hiking.
Mhm. Yep, yep, and that's been good too, just to slow me down. A lot of times I just, go just to get the miles in, but I've really enjoyed the time versus the mileage, because it makes me look at it differently. Like, okay, I'm just out here for 5 hours, I'm out here for 6 hours, whatever it is, versus okay, I got to get it to 25 miles or whatever. So
Right. And that
I
was what,
think,
one of the big focuses, I think, was trying to like, okay, let's do as much as we can in zone 1 and zone 2 versus how fast can we get it done. And that was hard, a hard change, I think,
it
especially
was,
not just because you didn't want to change. It was because also you have a busy life schedule, so
right,
trying to balance all of that.
right.
How did you balance it? You have 2 kids that are in school, you have a full-time job, you have a husband, and you're running a lot. How did that work?
A lot of 4:30 starts in the morning, just so I could still get home and not miss out on my day, or I still had, 8 hours of work that day, plus running kids to school, from school to practices, to this, to that. So it was a lot, but we made it through the hardest parts of that.
Yes.
So I'm looking forward to some sleep the next couple weeks. So
Right, right. Yep. We're going
I
to really
think
chill
there's,
down over the next few weeks. And, it
yeah,
was huge. I mean, I, of course, have access to all of your data, and I think she hit every single workout. I don't think there was a workout that was missed. I mean, we did have a lot of communication too, just making sure, like, how are you feeling? Do we need to back off this week? Or, are you still feeling good? And, to kind of working together on that, which I think was helpful. And also a really big week during your kids' spring break with a lot of miles
yeah,
that became, I think, a really good mental reassurance. Do you want
yeah.
to talk about that a little?
Sure. But first, Reese, were you going to say something?
I was just going to say, I think there's a couple really good takeaways here from all the listeners. And that's, like with an effort this big, and it doesn't have to be like an over 1,000-mile effort, but if you're running your first 50-mile, your first 100-mile, whatever it is, first 50K, there's going to be these points where you're going to have these mental lows, right? So if we're not taking ourselves in training to the point where we have those mental lows, so that we can build the mental tools to get ourselves out of those, then we're not really replicating what we're going to face on the day of the race or the day of the effort. So I think that with those back-to-back days that you were doing, I think it sounds like you've got a lot of great practice in going out slow and then going slower, so that way you can get home, practice your recovery, with which you're going to be doing for 19, 20 plus days, whatever it is. Practice your recovery so that way you can wake up the next day and be fresh enough to be able to then go again, in hopes of, in full well knowing that, like, hey, like, we're gonna hit some lows, we're gonna hit some mental spots where it's like, okay, like, not all these training runs are going to go perfectly, but just knowing that sometimes it's the training runs that don't go perfectly where you develop those skills to be able to mentally endure the effort, not just
Right,
physically endure the effort, that are going to make or break your next your bigger goal here.
right, right. Yeah, one of my biggest meltdown days was actually, I think I did 13 miles. So it was a bad day, but I got up and dusted myself off, cried a little, and moved on. The next day was better, and yeah, yeah.
And I
You
think
got to
too,
have those lows.
yeah, even just going through life, like I was thinking about this myself the past couple of weeks, just going through a lot of stress with moving and whatnot. And
Yeah,
like, it's not just what we do in running that prepares us for these amazing efforts. It's what we do during the rest of our lives. It's how we handle the stressful parts, the mentally stressful parts of being a mother, wearing many hats, going to work, doing all this stuff, planning logistics, planning your effort. Like, you had to do all the planning for this yourself too. So there's another stress on you, right? So if we look at just what do you do during your runs, that's only a very small portion of the total work that you've actually put in to accomplish this. The running is just a very small portion of, let's make sure that, like, you can keep yourself cool under stress, or you can think on the fly, you can adapt. We build adaptation. We build mental adaptability by, having the curveball of the kids needing something, or having to stay late at work, but then still adjust our schedules so that way we're not super stressed, but can still get in the other work that we need to do. So I think, like, for the listeners out there, think about your entire life and the entire stress load that goes into your life. And the next time you hit a low patch, or you can't get your run in, or things have to work around, just think to yourself, you know what? How I mentally come out of this is going to help me be a better ultra runner. Because when I'm just out there running and, like, I hit this low point because I'm kind of tired, that's not going to be as stressful as the rest of life, right?
right.
So I think those the way that you have taken your training and you've taken your life and you've made it all work and you've gotten through those lows, like you said, or those trouble spots where you're doing all that training. I think that's really huge and will definitely benefit you for the next 3-week adventure here.
Awesome.
Yeah.
So Sarah, is there anything that we missed that you want to share?
I don't think so.
Okay. Can you
No.
tell us how people can support your journey?
Yeah, yeah. So I'm not a huge social media person, but I'm trying to get back into it just to get the word out and share. And we started a page, Sarah's Crusade for Corey. So there'll be more information, as we get closer on there. And there's a link for the GoFundMe page on there to donate. And we're still looking for a few sponsors too for food and maybe some help with hotel costs or gas, stuff like that. So we were reaching out to a couple places about that and whatnot. So yeah, but sharing it, following, praying, all of those things are huge. So
Okay. And then what about people joining you? Is that something that you're gonna offer?
yeah, absolutely. I do like a good solo run, but it's going to be a lot of solo miles if I'm out there by myself the whole time. So anybody that wants to join is welcome to join. That would be
And what's the
great.
best way to kind of coordinate getting to run with you? I know I have the privilege that I'm going to sometime mid-June sneak up.
Yeah.
So, and I think Coach Reese might even be interested, but how can we know when to coordinate with you or how?
I'd probably go through my husband. Just he'll have a live tracker on me. It won't be um it won't be public for safety reasons. But either through there or a message on Facebook or something like that, because there'll be a couple people that'll have access to the page that they can get back to whoever.
Okay.
So
So if they go through your page, what's the name of the page again?
Sarah's Crusade for Corey.
Okay, so if we go to Sarah's Crusade for Corey, we can do a Facebook message to say, hey, I want to jump in on this day. I live in this area. They can help kind of coordinate.
Yep,
Okay.
that would be awesome. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Um, Reese, do you have any other questions?
No, I guess I just want to, finish off with, I think it's a very noble cause that, you've selected to, raise money for, and it's a little bit selfless for sure. And I think it's a great why factor and will definitely like propel you forward. And just thank you for coming on here and jumping in front of all the listeners and all the viewers to share your story and share your training and your adventure that you've spent so many hours planning and detailing. And I know it can be personal because it's your personal effort, and I just want to thank you for sharing it with everybody because it's a fantastic story, and I know there's going to be a lot of people that are cheering you on and want to follow along and see you succeed.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. And yeah, I'm doing the miles, but it's not just me. This is a whole team. This is, Loretta helping me on the sidelines, coming to run with me, my family out there with me, my coworkers, covering for me at work, and just everybody, the whole it's the whole community. It's not just me. So
That's awesome. And that's the thing, that's so amazing about the running community, right? We all come together and we all
yeah.
support, whatever that you need. So it's super exciting. And the one thing I'd like to share too is if you want to follow her journey, we are going to have some coverage on the Ornery Racing Instagram page. So you can kind of follow along there as well when it starts again on June 3rd. So we're super excited for this to get going, and we really are happy that you were able to come on. It's really brave of you to share your story because I know it's not easy for you to, share what's happening. It's scary. There's a lot of unknown, and you're doing for such a great cause. So you want to be great. But it's hard to make
Yeah.
it public. So
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah. One thing I did also actually want to share. So right now we have on the GoFundMe, we have it set as a goal of 25,000, and part of that is to help cover our expenses as well. But Ben and we're not going to be submitting any receipts until we hit that 25,000. So if we don't get that 25,000, the rest we won't be asking for anything, like any reimbursement. So, yeah, we really want the support to go where it needs to go and get the help that they need. So
Awesome. Well, thanks again, Sarah, for joining. And anybody that wants to help out through this great cause, check out her GoFundMe and her page. If you have any questions, you can also reach out to me, loretta.ornerymulracing@gmail.com, and I can help set you in the right direction as well. Coach Reese, you want to share a little bit about our podcast?
Sure. Which podcast?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So if you wanted to like or subscribe, share, rate us on your podcast player of choice, that would be amazing. We just want to make sure that, like all of this cool entertainment and all of these ultra insights get out to the masses so that everybody can finish strong and, get excited about things that people are doing in the area here. So give us a thumbs up, give us a share, rate us, review us, do the things on Spotify and Apple Podcasts, so that way we can reach more people. And we're thankful for everybody listening, and we're thankful for everybody tuning in every week. So that way, we can fulfill our goal in spreading kindness and community and helping everybody finish strong.
Awesome. That was perfect. I caught you off guard, but you did. You nailed it.
Woo. Okay.
All right. See ya. Bye.
Take
bye.
care.
Thanks, guys.